This is a Fox News alert. A sixth bomb blast appears to have hit Austin, Texas. Police and firefighters are responding right now to a reported package explosion in the south part of the city. At least one person reportedly is hurt. We'll supply further details, obviously, the second they come in. Austin police have shut down a city street in another part of town over a suspicious package. Apparently, it's in an apartment building. What do we know about the explosives that have been used in this bomb? How were they made? What do they look like? Johnny Joey Jones is an explosives expert. He was wounded in Afghanistan. He joins us tonight. Johnny, thanks for coming on. So from what we know publicly about these bombs, what does it add up to from what you can tell?
Well, it's really hard right now. I think that the candor the police are showing in appealing to the bomber and asking the public for information is very genuine and very telling. I stay very connected to the bomb tech community, and I can tell you now there's not a lot of information out there, so the police are keeping whatever they have pretty tight-lipped. Take the one tripwire or clothesline or whatever you call it aside, everything else is consistent in the sense that it's put into a package and either placed or shipped now. And so that's the one consistent thing other than the area that we have to go on. There isn't enough information on the type of explosive or how they're wired up and set off for us to make any kind of assumption or presumption on where they're coming from. In other words,
no, that's right.
I can see certain circuits and say, okay, Inspire magazine, Iraq, Afghanistan, Taliban, ISIS, or I can see pipe bomb and think, okay, domestic, homegrown. Right now, we're not getting enough of that information to know.
So we have heard the bombs described as increasingly sophisticated, and that was particularly applied to the bomb detonated with a tripwire. Without giving anything away, but give us some perspective, is that a sophisticated device, a bomb that's ignited with a tripwire?
No, that's actually really simple. And I can tell you that if you can think of a clothesline with your positive or your clothespin with your positive and negative on the top and bottom and put a piece of rubber or wood in between it, and then run a wire from that piece of rubber or wood, you trip over that, and then that spring pulls it down. It's really, really simple. But the point being, what we're seeing today with someone shipping a package, that takes away a lot of those presumptions I had 24 hours ago. Everything I've heard up until last night seemed like pretty simple mechanical engineering. You can use a washing machine timer to create standoffs so you can get away. Really simple and what we would call surefire techniques. But to put something in the mail, to have it thrown around, put in a truck, thrown on a conveyor belt before it goes off, that suggests something much more sophisticated and, quite honestly, much scarier.
Interesting. Does it also suggest a different kind of explosives?
No, it doesn't necessarily mean anything for the... So there's two types of science, right? There's the chemistry in the explosive. That can be binary, like aluminum powder and another ingredient I won't say, but you can get it in tannerite. Or it can be very chemistry intensive, like TATP and other types of explosives. And so that's one part of the science. And then the other part is electric circuitry or mechanical circuitry. And those two are very different but can seem the same way. For example, the first bomb, they said that when the lady opened it, it exploded. That could be something really simple, like two wires in a hook pattern that just come together when you open it. Or it can be something really complex, like a photocell that allows the current to go through when light hits it. So there's a rudimentary way for those bombs. With something put into the mail and shipped around, you kind of have to believe it's a little bit more sophisticated than that, and that's concerning. But it doesn't say much to the chemistry of the explosive at all.
So if you were to see the explosive device, would signatures be obvious to you? In other words, do certain groups build certain kinds of bombs? Is that correct?
To an extent. I mean, we saw very different bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan. If you think about it, in Iraq, there's a certain amount of infrastructure, and they can do things that are a little trickier. Use cell phones, use IR sensors, but it's like the game Mousetrap. The more you add to it, the more will go wrong. So when we moved over to Afghanistan in 2009, where I worked dozens, if not hundreds of IEDs, over there it's real simple. It's like your loop circuit on your flashlight, except instead of a bulb, you've got a bomb. It's a little bit easier to defeat once you find it, but it's also a lot more reliable. And so those are the two types of bombs we saw in Iraq and Afghanistan. Bring it home, a lot of what we see here are pipe bombs, which actually have a powder train time fuse, which means you light it and it burns until it blows up, like Wile E. Coyote. What we're seeing here today are electronically initiated, which is a lot harder to accomplish, and there's one specific part and piece I won't talk about too much that's really hard to make at home or hard to get a hold of. Everything else, very common.
So those are obviously two completely different categories. So that will tell us a lot.
Yes, exactly.
Johnny, thank you for that. That was really interesting.
Yeah.